I reached out and said, with the passing of Stephen Hawking, age 76, I said, I need someone in the field to talk about his impact. And who better than Stephon? Stephen Hawking is his de facto academic grandfather. Explain to us how that works.
Well, when we do our scientific training in our field, which is theoretical cosmology, you spend so much time with the person that they become kind of like a parent to you. So my PhD advisor, Robert Brandenberger, is my academic father, and he trained under Stephen Hawking, so that makes Stephen my academic grandfather.
Practically family. It's been all across the news. I was up last night late, as I usually am, and when the news was coming in about his passing, I was probably not surprised to see just my Facebook and social media and people share the passing of Stephen Hawking. I mean, between the theory of everything and sort of his involvement in pop culture, but as we take a step back and look at his life and his legacy, what will people say in 20 and 40 years?
I mean, considering what happened to him at a very young age, that he had what, was seen as a terminal illness, and the fact that he was so passionate about life and so passionate about his physics, that's one thing that's definitely gonna, always remain with us, just like, that as an example of courage and how to live one's life. And the second thing, he really was, he really cared about his students, and he really had his passion for understanding the universe, and his curiosity was just so infectious that we just fell in love with him,
And so do you think, that he's resonated beyond just the walls of physics? And we talked about physics being just beyond mathematics. Between the movies, between the coverage, between the pop culture, is he really a persona that's well beyond just the realm of physics?
Yeah, so one thing, when I had my first research job, Stephen and his group, his research group, invited me to give my very first seminar, a physics seminar at Cambridge University. And so I had the opportunity to, check out his office, and he had a very nice, huge, larger-than-life Marilyn Monroe poster right in his office. So I think so he was also kind of like a regular dude,
He was a regular dude. And let's talk a little bit, because I want to talk about the work that you've done in the field of physics, and I want to stay on the movie front for a little bit, because if folks had seen The Theory of Everything. Did you see The Theory of Everything?
Yes.
Do you think it represented him and his work and his impact fairly accurately?
Yeah, and especially, he was so creative. His mind was so creative. He was kind of like an artist in a lot of ways, a magician. He had all the technical chops, but at the end of the day, his imagination, he was actually really able to, read into the mind of God, as he said, and really see the happenings of the cosmos.
Well, I think he just resonated with so many people in the field and even beyond, again, as we had talked about his passing being all over social media. And talking about movies, talk with us about how you got tapped to be a consultant with A Wrinkle in Time. Did you get a phone call up and basically, hi, we need someone who really knows physics, that we want to make sure we're doing this movie right?
Well, it's funny because the happening of that actually was like a fantasy movie, because I hadn't been to LA in 5 years. I hadn't been to LA in 5 years. And the day I was in LA for my book tour, I get an email from Ava DuVernay saying that we're interested in looking at you, amongst other people, for the potential of being a scientific advisor for Wrinkle in Time. And so I just happened to be in LA, so I emailed her, and the next day I'm in Ava DuVernay's office with her creative team, and basically, Representative Brown, and we got, I say we, but that I got the gig, and that was, that's
off to the races.
Yeah.
So for us here in the studio, that just sounds like making magic. How does that work when you're on a movie set, and how do they bring you in and say, does this make sense? Can we do this? How does it work to be a physics consultant on a big motion picture?
So there are many elements of it. There's a creative team, the team that does special effects, and there's also the script. And since I was dealing with all the scientific elements, the thing that I thought was really cool, Jennifer Lee, who did Frozen, she wrote the script for A Wrinkle in Time. She's from Rhode Island. Okay, and that's huge. I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So anyway, I went out to LA, hung out with Chris Pine and Gugu and Ava and whatever Disney people.
You were in the scene.
I was in the scene, I was kind of behind the scenes. And we did a lot of correspondence via email and phone conversations and Skype calls and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
So what were the questions like? Were they like, can we do this, or can this character say this? And did you just have to go through with your red tip pen and say, this is accurate, this is a stretch, this is how you should phrase it? Talk with us about your role in advising them how to make the movie scientifically accurate, but also something people are going to love to see.
That's right. So there's a lot of fantasy and magic elements in the movie, but there was also a lot of modern physics, like how to bend the space-time so that you can tessor from different, galactic regions, right? Intergalactic regions. And so I had to pretty much make the science really sound such that it would actually also naturally communicate visually and sonically to the audience. And so there was a lot of consulting with the special effects team and Ava, especially. Ava and I actually had a lot of collaboration going on, and she has an amazingly imaginative mind, right? So.
Would you want to do another movie again?
Heck yeah! Oh yeah! It was a lot of fun, especially getting to hang out with some of my favorite movie stars.
So when we watch the movie and we see the credits, are we going to see Stephon Alexander?
In fact,
right there in fine print.
That's right. In fact, I had my sister-in-law just actually took a snapshot of the credits as scientific advisor to Dr. Stephon Alexander. So that was pretty cool.
I love it. And so you were out there on your book tour. Now, this was the next thing I wanted to move to here. This was the jazz of physics, or physics of jazz.
The jazz of physics.
The jazz of physics, I had it correct. Talk with us a little bit about that and what the reception to the book's been so far.
Yeah. So the jazz of physics, I spent a good percentage of my life in Providence. I was at Brown actually for my PhD program, 6 years. And so while I was in Providence, I used to hang out in the scene, the music scene in Providence. And I'm a jazz musician. I play the sax, but I'm also a physicist. So I decided to write a book to have these two worlds speak to each other. And it's a book about how improvisational music is connected to the universe. And the book goes into all of that, but also a lot of stories about my musical friends and my physics friends and how I had those two worlds speak to each other.
The cross-pollination, I like it. And you're going on a book tour, so how many places were you kind of going out and talking about the book?
Yeah, so the book tour was really cool. It was a national book tour. I probably gave on the order of over 100 book talks. The book is in about 14 different countries now and 9 different languages. So so it did pretty okay.
Sounds like it did pretty okay,
yeah.
And you were in the right place at the right time for the Wrinkle in Time. Speaking of being in the right place in the right time, you're doing your PhD work, going out into the world, coming back to Brown. What has it meant to come back to Brown, and how has Brown enabled you to grow in the field?
Yeah, I think that I can't really separate my Brown existence from my Providence existence. Because as a student at Brown, I would definitely, my friends and I would come down to downtown Providence and really get involved with the music scene, especially the live music scene, at various little spots in the city. And so that was very inspirational, having the opportunity to do both of that, and Providence being an environment that basically has these world-renowned institutions, as well as a very nice a personable, accessible downtown scene, is very unique and very hard to find elsewhere in the country.
Well, I'm putting 2 and 2 together over here today. Here in GoLocal, the Alex and Ani Lounge, we launched our first live pop-up show with Mickey Lamontia playing the saxophone. Can we maybe get you back downtown to play some sax?
I would love to do that. That would be my pleasure.
Well, as you talk about just the interconnecting ways of the world, passing of Stephen Hawking, your academic grandfather, talking about working on the movie A Wrinkle in Time, and your new book, The Jazz of Physics, I think we're going to see Stephon Alexander back downtown here sooner than later to play some sax in the Alex and Ani Lounge. Anything else you'd like viewers or folks who might be watching to know while you're down here?
Don't be strangers. If you see me on the street, give me a good wave. And this has been a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate your coming down again. The big news broke late last night, the passing of Stephen Hawking, and we got one of the top physics minds in the world here in the studio and GoLocal to give us the sense of his legacy and also what you've been up to. So, Dr. Stephon Alexander, I appreciate you taking the time. I'll let you go around the corner, and we'll sign you up for when you're going to come play sax. Okay. It's been a busy day here at GoLocal, starting at 2 o'clock. Alex and Annie Lounge, we had our first pop-up show with Mickey LaMantia. You can see that on Facebook. We'll have it on GoLocal Prov tomorrow as well. 3 o'clock, Josh Fenton had a very busy show. Politics, Kobe Dennis, Providence mayoral candidate, Chip Reed, DC consultant, and Lara Salamano with Rhode Island Commerce. More fun-size ads coming out from that campaign. We'll have more on those tomorrow. And of course, a busy show here at 4 o'clock. Bob Flanders, GOP U.S. Senate candidate, talking about his big announcement this week that he is not going to take any money from opioid manufacturers, calling on sitting Senator Sheldon Whitehouse to not only not take money, return what he says is the $30,000+ he has taken from the industry. We also had Jack Hayes with Josh Fenton, the Brown University athletic director, talking about Brown athletics and the NCAAs as a whole. And then Dr. Stephon Alexander, I appreciate Brown University sending him down here with the passing of Stephen Hawking, his influence, not just in the field of physics, but the world in general. Stephon talked about going to Stephen Hawking's office in Cambridge and seeing a large poster of Marilyn Monroe. Interesting story. I really appreciate him coming down here into the studio. It's been a busy day, but we'll have more for you back here tomorrow. I'll be up at the State House at 3 o'clock. Molly O'Brien will be back at the 4 o'clock hour. Be sure to stay tuned to GoLocalProv.com and Facebook for more news, politics, lifestyle, and sports. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.